Today I'm going to be starting a new series called How to Redstone. In this series I'm going to be showing you the basics on redstoning, and then I'm going to be showing you how to use those components and different mechanics to create some really cool stuff. So let's get right into it. So today is a beginning day. With everything you need to learn the basics before you can do, really high skill stuff. So let's start with the basics. These are all the redstone components that we are going to be using in this class, sort of. So let's start off with Redstone Dust. This is the, as you probably know, this is the complete basis of all things redstone. It's literally what creates, it is redstone. So redstone is used to carry signal strengths towards different components. So if I use a lever, that'll activate redstone. So let's see. There we go. It activates this redstone, and that's what gives power to pretty much everything here, and it allows you to do some really cool things. So that's redstone. That's the basics of redstone. As you can see, it has a certain signal strength. It always starts with 15, meaning that it can go exactly 15 blocks. I'll show you. Before it runs out to 0. When it hits 0, it has no power left, which means that anything past that point won't do anything. Alright, so let's go on to all of these components. So the lever, as you saw before, it toggles things on and off. So if it's down, this will be on. It will be active. It'll be turning on everything that is connected to this, as long as the pieces are activated. So then you can turn them on and off, and this is the base point of a lot of different farms. The switch is a very versatile thing. So now there's two types of buttons. The buttons are a lot like the lever, but they're set for a temporary amount of time to be active. So this one, it lasts for a few ticks. And then the stone lasts, it's a much shorter pulse, but it still works the same way. Just depending on what thing you want to build, you may want to go for length that's longer or one that's shorter. So over here are pressure plates. So as you may be able to figure out on your own, you stand on it, it puts a signal output on. That's for stone and for wood pressure plates. It'll always give out a 15 pulse if you're standing directly on it, or if anything is standing on it. Next up is the iron pressure plate. So you may have seen this before and see it only pushes out one. Well, the only way to get more than one is to place more than 10 stacks of items on it. Each 10 stacks is equivalent to a single redstone pulse. Between 1 to 10 stacks will get you this one. 11 to 20 stacks will get you this one. 21 to 30 stacks will get you here, and so on. And for gold pressure plates, the way that works is every different item is an extra pulse. So as you can see, we have 3 items laying on that one pressure plate. So the starting one will be 3. Let's go again. So 1, the first one is going to be a power of 1. The next item, for some reason is invisible, gives it a 2 strength. And 3, boom, 3 strength right there. This can be used in a lot of different ways. Say you're doing a farm and you need exactly this certain amount, you can dispense items onto this pressure plate. Once it has a certain amount of strength, then it'll drop it into a second area. Alright, Redstone Block. This one is an always active block. No matter what you do with it, it will always be active and will always activate anything that's beside it. See? You got that, you got that, you got that, there we go. This thing can be used in a lot of different ways. Keep things always active, or if you're using pistons, you can make it so that it's active when the piston's active. It's a lot of different things you can do. We'll get into that further as we go through the series. Redstone Torch. It's a lot like the Redstone Block. The only difference is that it cannot be moved, and it can be put on sides of things. You see, it's like a normal torch. You can put it on any place that a normal torch would be, and it's pretty useful. The best thing about this that's different from the redstone block is that if you do that, if you put a lever on it or any redstone input into it, into the block that it's on, it'll turn off. Now this may not seem very useful, but when you get into a lot of redstone systems, this is in a lot of them, and it's really good to have and good thing to know. Alright, next we got the tripwire. So to set this up, what you're going to need is string and a trip hook. As you can see right here, you get tripwire hook on each one, and then you put down some string in each spot. Now I have a resource pack that makes it glow, so it's easier to see, but in your world, it'll probably just be white. So if you walk on it, or if any entity goes over it, it'll send out a 15 strength redstone pulse. And it just goes for however long you're standing on it. As soon as you're off, boom, done. Perfect. So this is good if you want to set up a trap, if you're trying to do stuff with mobs. I know witch farms run off of this sometimes. There's a lot of different ways to use this. Next block is the Observer. So the Observer observes. When a block update occurs right in front of it, right where the face is pointing, a redstone pulse will be sent out the back. It'll always be a 15 strength pulse, and it's a 1 tick pulse, which means it's very short, and depending on how you use it, it can do a bunch of different things. We'll get into 1 tick pulses in a later episode. I'm going to be going more in depth in basically all of the stuff here in later episodes. Right now, I'm just setting up the basis for all the future videos. So if you guys want to see that, make sure to subscribe because it'll be coming out at least 1 episode a week I'm going to be aiming for. So that's what the Observer does. Every time that it has a block update, boom, redstone pulse. This is probably the most used redstone block other than, redstone itself in a lot of complex farms. Alright, so the Comparator. This bad boy is one of the most complex pieces of redstone you'll see in Minecraft, probably until they add some new stuff. The reason why this block is so complex is because it has a lot of different uses. It has 2 different modes, subtract and normal mode, and it takes outputs from chests, and it takes outputs from things, and depending on, say for a chest, how many items are in there, it'll have a different length, and then for a lectern, different pages will have different redstone pulses. You see, so that's a strength of 10, and we're on page 5. We go to page 6, it's a 12. So there we go. So comparators, I'll have a much more in-depth video on this in the future because comparators are really complex and they deserve their own videos to honestly get everything out of it that you can. Now let's get something a little more easy to understand. This is a redstone repeater. This is a very, you're really going to need this. So as I told you over here, if you put down a lever, you activate redstone, it goes 15 blocks like this. When it hits 0, it doesn't go anymore. It's done. Nothing will happen. So like, say you're going into a block right here, that redstone torch is going to be on. But if you do it right here, the redstone torch is going to be off. But say you have a bunch of other stuff going that way that you want to still be active. What you're going to do is you're going to put down a repeater right there, and basically it's going to restart the system, or it's going to give you more outputs. Now that's one of the uses, it just gives you extra length, but another one is that it delays the impulse. So let's say right now it's at a 1 tick delay. This is 2 ticks delay, 3 ticks delay, 4 ticks delay. So if you want to delay an impulse by a certain amount of time, you can do that with repeaters or chains of repeaters. It's really useful. Back over here, we have the dispenser and the dropper. Now, these two things, they may look basically exactly alike, but they actually work pretty similarly, but different. All right, so with this dropper right here, for a dropper, it will drop any item inside of the dropper in entity form, which means it'll be floating like this. You see that head, and shulker box was supposed to be in there. There you go. For some reason, it's invisible. I'm not sure. And yeah, so anything that you put in here, when you activate it, it will drop in entity form. No matter what it is, it will be in entity form. So there we go. Now, for the dispenser, we have the exact same items in here. Depending on which item you get, it'll do a different thing. Shulker boxes, it'll actually place the shulker box, which, depending on your system, if you're doing a shulker box unloader, can be pretty good. Then, I don't know what that was. There we go. That was a XP bottle. So that just got sent out and broken, and I got a little bit of XP. For some reason, the zombie head isn't working properly. It might be just a glitch with my system. Alright, so next up is the target block. This one is one of the new blocks in 1.16. Well, it's not really new anymore, it's been a while. But the way that this works is that the closer you hit to the center, the stronger the redstone output's going to be. Here, let me do that again. So, and it'll just be a short little pulse. So if you get a bullseye, boom, 13. Or I don't think that was quite a bullseye. You get a bullseye, you should get 15. Alright? Next up are the pistons. Now, there are two different variations. One, just the normal piston, and then the sticky piston. Let's show you how these work. So the normal piston, you activate it, and it'll leave the block there. Now, this has a bunch of different uses. Say you're making a cobblestone generator, this will just push out the cobblestone to get blown up by the TNT later. But say you're making a system where you just want to be moving a redstone block so that it'll be doing certain things when it's turned on, when it's turned off, you'd want to use a sticky piston, because those, you see, it pushes it up and then it pulls it right back down because of that sticky slimy stuff in there. Now these are pretty good. The main use for this, well actually I wouldn't say the main use, there's a lot of different uses, but one of my favorite uses for this is for Tnt Dupers. Those are pretty good. For this one, like I showed you earlier, it's the lectern with a comparator at the back. It will just, depending on the page you're on, give you a different output. So right now I'm on page 7, giving me 15, as you can see right here. Page 6, 12, page 5, 10, page 4, 8, page 3, 5, page 2, 3, and then just down to 1. That one's pretty simple. These two are mainly used just for traps. Say you've got a buddy, you want to mess with them, go ahead and use this. You can do a bunch of different things. Next one is the hopper. Now the hopper is very nice because it transports items anywhere, honestly, depending on how much you want moved. Let's say I want 64 lamps moved. As you can see, it'll be going through the hopper into the chest underneath. Now, sadly, you can't, put it upside down, so it won't bring things up, but this is still pretty good. It'll move things around, and especially for farms that are collecting items, this is a must-have block. So there we go. Next up is the redstone lamp. Literally lights up when you activate it. That's pretty much it. If you get something that gives out a constant redstone pulse, not a button, there you go, it'll always be active. Right here we've got the note block, and depending on what tune you have it to, when you activate it, it'll make a different sound. Now, the sound usually doesn't really matter for redstone. It's just used for block updates with the observer. So if you put this in front of the observer, then you activate it, boom, you see, it sends out a pulse. So that's what its main use for in redstone is, but it's got a lot of uses other than redstone. Next up is TNT, and I think we all know what TNT does. Oh shit. Yeah, that's TNT. Next up are the different types of rails. So right here we have the powered rail. So as you can see right now, it looks kind of dull. The minecart moves extremely slowly when you push it, and if you get in, it's really, oh, this is just not good, But as soon as you power this using any form of redstone, whether that be a button for a temporary one, a lever, anything you want, it goes speedy. Now it's just kind of going back and forth here because, I got blocks on either side stopping it. But you can make a really interesting thing with redstone to do this. Now is just the normal rails. You get on the minecart. You don't move too fast, but depending on what you're doing, it's good. These are the only rails that can actually turn. So as you can see, it won't turn, but then if you put these in, boom, turns, the minecart will follow the trail. Next up is the detector rail. So the detector rail, whenever a minecart of any kind it can have an entity in it, it can be an empty minecart. Whenever it goes over that rail, it is sending out a 15 strength redstone output. So as you can see, every time it goes over, the lamp activates. That's because it's being activated by the detector rail. Finally is the different types of minecarts. Now the furnace minecart, if I can not activate this? Oh, no. So the way that this works is that you can't actually smelt things with this. The way that you use it is you put in a piece of fuel, and then it will start pushing all the other mine carts that are in front of it so that they'll, like, I don't know, go up a chain or whatever you want to do with it. Personally, I use these when I'm working with villagers because I have a villager breeder, and then I use this to push the villagers that are in minecarts across the rails. Next up is the chest. It acts exactly like a chest would. You just throw items in there, and then you're able to move them around. A good one for this is, say, a super smelter. You throw all your stuff in there. You throw all your, your iron ore, and then it goes zooming, and then it gets evenly dispersed along all the furnaces. Next up is the hopper minecart. Hopper minecart works the exact same as a hopper, but it's in a minecart, so it moves along a system. This can be good for a collection system of a super smelter if you don't want to use just normal hoppers to save on materials, like whatever you may have. Lastly is the TNT minecart, and it kind of does the same thing as normal TNT. You go, it blows up. I'm not going to demonstrate here. So there you go. That is episode 1 of How to Redstone. In the next episode, I will be going over a lot more technical things. This was just kind of getting you familiar with all the different blocks, what they do. The next one, I'll be showing you. I'll probably do the comparator video next because that one's really important. And then I'll be showing you some basic things, explaining the physics behind it, and hopefully you'll be able to take the physics from those things and make some really neat things of your own. So if you guys are interested in seeing those videos, make sure to subscribe. I'll have a playlist of all these videos for you to check out. And yeah, if this helped, leave a like, comment down below, and I'll see you next time. Later.